Friday safety focus of the week is August 4th. This week's code of conduct is to strive for restraint, discretion, and integrity. I believe this has been Dow's favorite code item. So do you want to speak on that?
Just count to 3 before you react. It all relates to impulsivity.
Yep.
Everybody already knows. I've already talked to most everybody about this when I tell them to count to 3. Your reaction is going to be different after you count to 3, guaranteed.
Oh, maybe 30. Count to 30 sometimes.
But sometimes I've learned that the reaction becomes a little bit even higher level sometimes, or maybe a little bit louder, but at least you've chosen to take you've chosen your reaction in dealing with anything. Yeah, 30 seconds works sometimes too. That's called a timeout.
Okay. 3 seconds is a breath. Take a breath.
Yeah. So another 7 days without a recorder. We're up to 93. We did have a first aid injury on Monday, hand laceration, driving a hammer through the thumb. So good hand placement reminder that we talked about last week. But again, it starts with just really paying attention to what we're doing, thinking about what we're doing, staying focused on our tasks, try to eliminate those distractions, try to really eliminate those unsafe conditions and then those unsafe acts, and we can go home safe and sound each and every day. This week, I wanted to talk about protecting against impalement hazards. There's a couple standards that we have to obey by according to the OSHA regulations, but also there's been a lot of really bad injuries throughout the United States regarding people falling onto rebar. And they're usually pretty serious injuries. So it's been a while since we talked about this topic, and I thought it was definitely all the concrete work that we're doing now, a lot of rebar tying that we're doing now, that just the importance of rebar caps, the importance of identifying those impalement hazards, and then trying to do our best to eliminate those each and every day. So if someone slips, trips, and falls, or falls from height, does not get impaled by rebar sticking out or any other nails, fasteners, any other types of protruding hazards like nails and screws and things like that. So the standard, how it's written, 1926 701B, all protruding reinforcing steel onto and into which employees could fall shall be guarded to eliminate hazards of impalement. So they changed that about 2006, where it's not just heights, it's also falling into what kind of same surface. So if it's horizontal or vertical, rebar cap should be on the ends of our reinforcement steel. There's a little bit of, we had a couple questions come up with this over the last couple of weeks, so we just wanted to kind of address that with the safety meeting, that even if it's a horizontal bar, we should have rebar caps on it. And then the last standard that kind of really applies to what we do, so I'm having a hard time with my mouse, there it is the 1926 25.A, which applies to protruding nails and screws and fasteners. So during the course of construction or repairs, form or scrap lumber with protruding nails and all other debris shall be kept cleared from workways, passengers, and stairs in, around, and other buildings. So we want to really make sure that we identify when we're removing or handling that we're taking off these nails, not making sure that they're not protruding hazards for anyone walking, working nearby. So again, to best practice is to eliminate those hazards by completely removing the nail, bending them over where someone can't get cut or punctured through nails. So it's a important housekeeping issue, but also just hazard identification and elimination on our job sites, as we're doing so much concrete work and rebar work currently on our projects. So I kind of wanted to keep it simple. Let's put our rebar caps on. Let's eliminate those nails, screws, fasteners, anything that might be protruding, and so we can go home safe and sound and not have any injuries on our job sites. If there's any questions, contact Health and Safety. We'll be out to get these addressed, and this is definitely a hot item for us to be looking for on our current projects. With that said, Ken, I'll pass over to you.
Okay, can you clarify that on the horizontal rebar again?
Yeah, so if it's a horizontal rebar, it needs to have caps on as well. So not just vertical, horizontal, because you could fall into it. A tripping hazard occurs, and it's a horizontal bar, and you could get impaled through that horizontal bar. So that
So
should have
you're
a
talking
rebar
about
cap on as well.
a certain height bar, or I'm not really following.
So
What-
there's a letter interpretation in OSHA that if the horizontal bar could be impaled, so it's
be.
kind of case by case. So they kind of said it more than a foot off the ground is kind of
Okay, so
how the letter interpretation is.
if you get bars coming out of the end of a slab, it obviously is less than a foot probably, and
Right.
but if it's an elevated surface with bars coming out, and that's an issue.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it's like a tank, like in Middlebury right now, we have this kind of
Right.
arched rebar, and it's about waist height, but it's
Mhm.
horizontal at the waist height. So that's an example of an impalement hazard that we would need to have caps on it.
And what's the rules? Like you see sometimes people use 2x4, 2x6 to kind of compass all of them and cover them. Is that acceptable or isn't it?
It isn't acceptable. However, there's a little bit of gray area on that because it would needs to withstand 250-pound kind of a drop test on it. So if it's fastened really strong, very similar to the fall protection standard with guardrails, if it's really sturdy and fastened and it can't shift or move, and it's protecting from that potential impalement hazard, then those are in compliance.
Okay.
The whole intent of this standard is to eliminate impalement where you can't actually rebar actually penetrate through the skin. That's the intent of the standard.
Yep. And often a curb pin is looking very similar to a rebar sticking out up out of a slab or out of a footing, right?
Yeah,
But
like
obviously
just like sidewalks. Yeah, if you're installing sidewalks and they're pretty high up and you have a lot of tripping hazards and a very messy job site, you might want to identify those areas and figure out how to make sure they have caps on it. The idea that caps should be roughly 4 inches wide.
And I noticed, and it wasn't on our job, I noticed like foundations for street lamps that are very low to the sidewalk. With the sidewalk done and everything's done in public passing with a bunch of, anchor bolts, maybe 3 or 4 inches sticking out of the ground of, say, a 5/8 anchor bolt. It seems like what we ought to be thinking of, I guess my point is that, is there a hazard to the general public passing through our site too? And maybe it's not required explicitly to have a rebar cap on an anchor bolt in that case, but maybe some sort of protection, even an orange barrel or cone over the thing that would be appropriate. But I've seen others kind of leave it exposed, and it's just I was surprised that it wasn't better protected and delineated. All right, I'll
Yeah,
take over.
well said. Thanks, Ken.
Yep. Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Good. So it looks like the fare tickets have been mailed with the paychecks. So look for those and make sure you check the envelope. And the other thing, just another reminder, the new vehicle and equipment card, fuel cards are in, so please see Sarah to exchange those cards. Their current cards will expire in September. And just continuing this announcement, the STD life insurance, so that's the short-term disability and life insurance. ECI made a change. That's a program and a benefit that's of no cost to the employee, and there's been an improvement and increase in that coverage. So a good thing there. And then the healthcare premium continues, probably not too much longer. Haven't done my math yet, but let's see, June, July is done, so we're probably up around 10 weeks now of the 14. This coming weekend, I guess, is the 2023 Dragon Boat Festival. It's a benefit for the McClure Miller Respite House. And please consider a donation to support Sarah Wallen's effort. And there's a link and also date and location. This is from the website. So you can make that link and get to her donation site and put in anything if you're inclined to do so. It was very nice benefit and great to see Sarah out there participating to benefit this kind of thing. So we donated. And for new employees, we've got Cody Marsh. Welcome, Cody. Oops, he is still scrolling here, scrolling up. Welcome to Cody. Already talked to him multiple times. We have the free opioid drug help kit, which is in the side entrance. So if you have a loved one who is struggling with these kind of problems, then please take one of these bags. I have the link to the ECI Primary Care Wellness Program. And for the project of the week, we are looking at this project of 105 Central Avenue, which was a garage underpinning project. And we were contracted with a private residence on Central Avenue to underpin their roughly 16 by 23 garage. The upstairs of garage was finished living space, and both levels were connected to the main house. The building had experienced settlement and some amount of lateral movement caused by the clay subgrade conditions on a fairly steep bank down to Shelburne Bay. The problems are mostly due to the shallow slab on grade foundation with slightly thickened edges. And it was just an old garage, and it was continually built up and improved, and it had started out on an inadequate foundation. If it had frost walls and everything, it would have been much better. So the owner's original plan that they worked out with their engineer was to jack up the garage, allow for construction of a new substructure with footings, frost walls, slab, new wall framing, and other improvements. And they couldn't get a building contractor, because it was pretty complicated and technical project. It's kind of a tough area in the sense of getting down there and kind of blending in with this really tight-knit neighborhood. So what we were asked to come look at it by their engineer, Eric Goddard from Knights, and we suggested a simpler and cheaper option to underpin the garage structure with 12 hollow bar bracket piles and replace the floor slab. Our scope of work expanded to include a trench drain and paving. This picture is before we started the project. You'll notice a pretty steep driveway from Central Ave down. So obviously there was a water problem going right into that garage, although there was an old trench drain, but it wasn't very effective. And our proposal was just to install these perimeter piles to support the garage. And you see there's a connector to the existing house. And the brackets are manufactured by Earth Contact Products and were specifically fabricated for hollow bar micropiles. We've used them before. However, the brackets are intended to attach adjacent to and under a footing of at least about 12 inches thick. Our situation had a thickened edge slab with only about 6 inches or less of edge for the bracket to engage and for spanning to the next pile. See, the key to these is to have it span from pile to pile when you expose everything. An ECI solution to that problem was to attach a heavy steel angle section to the bottom edge of the slab with Hilti bolts. The angle section was installed prior to digging in the brackets and helped to span between these piles, despite the somewhat fractured concrete slab. Our design concept also included pouring a grade beam below and around the brackets for the permanent footing. This is a marked up cut sheet from the supplier, and see, we had this angle, you can see in the middle of steel 6x3L continuous, right, sandwiched in between the bracket and the existing footing. And then we encased everything in a grade beam. Got some steel details here. And then I got a picture of the couple of the ones that weren't used. You see there is the angles shaped section with a bearing area and a surface plate attached to the structure. And it would put these tubes through it and the drill through the tubes. Tubes help provide a moment resistant coupling, coupler type effect at the connection. This is the angle section. It had to go under the slab. You can see that broken up slab. So you'd have to span across areas that weren't very structurally good. So we put the angle bracket in there. And you can see in this photo, we have the bracket installed, ready for a pile, and the Hilti bolted angle in underneath the haunch slab. And we had 12 40-20 millimeter hollow bar micro piles that we installed with our TEI man portable. So that has all remote power pack and is portable, definitely, and still heavy though, and kind of cumbersome. So several of the piles, because it was so awkward, were installed with the help of our Kubota U17 excavator to support and move the drill. Our crews fabricated a bracket to attach the drill to the blade of the U17. That was pretty cool and good thinking. However, half the micropiles were installed by manually moving the drill into place and fastening the drill to the base of the drill, the steel angle section, to resist the reaction forces. You'll see why in a minute, because right here we didn't have a whole lot of room, but we had enough for the little U17. Drilling against that one side, the north side of the house, I would call it, I guess. And here's a close-up how we did it around the corner, where we fastened and chained the base of the drill. See the tight chain there goes over to the angle brackets. And that was done in a really tight spot around this, between this kind of porch area in the back of the garage, and then went around the corner where Brad was standing, went around the corner another 15 feet, and it was only like 42 inches wide in there to work. So pretty tight area. And this picture here is after the grade beam was poured and everything's restored. Looks real nice. Back to normal for these people. It was an inconvenience, certainly, having all this activity around their house, but they were very pleased with the outcome. Another item of scope work was provided 2 laterally battered micropiles to resist horizontal forces pushing the building towards the lake. These piles needed to be installed through the garage floor slabs after the hollow bar drilling and grouting was done. It was done after that, all that messy work, so we elected to use helical piles for a simpler installation and screwed the piles in, and then the slab itself transferred that resisting horizontal force to around the haunch slab section, which we poured back in a new slab. So it kind of locked everything in better for the owner. And then you see I also replaced an existing trench drain at the front of the garage, which was very inadequate. Existing was very inadequate, mostly due to the plastic grate with small openings. The replacement grates were refurbished from an old grate that we had salvaged from another job. And the opening size was ideal for keeping acorns out from the large oak tree nearby. And there was like a very prolific oak tree, it was huge. Dumped all those right on that sloping driveway, I think. A lot of its acorns, they just rolled right down, made a mess. So we had to, that was part of our consideration. And it proved pretty effective in the recent downpours, the grading. So that was good to hear. There's the trench drain under construction. And then these next pictures, there's on the left what they had for the trench drain, which is obviously very limited. And this is a close-up, this other one on the right, of the refurbed pieces that I think they were 12 or 13 inches long. We ran them length, kind of perpendicular to the length of the trench drain, with the slots allowing the water to drop in easily and make the water, divert the water into the trench drain. And this picture shows the completed trench drain with the covers on it. And all the grade beam and everything is done, just waiting for asphalt pavement. And this was just I had lots of positive feedback from the owner, Buffy and Steve, and one of the emails said we couldn't be happier with the work of everyone who helped us at ECI on our garage foundation project, from coming up with and refining the design to doing all the hard work to construct it. We know there are small things to finish up in the driveway to put into place, but we want to let you know how satisfied we are with the hard work of your whole team and how well they worked together, worked with each other and us, and how considerate they were of neighbors and my garden, she says, through the entire process. She had quite a garden, so she was very happy. So another cool job, very interesting, very unique. So, and it made the owner very happy. So here's the photo of the archive of the week, and this is underpinning of the Niket building facade on Main Street in Winooski back in March of 2006. It was some sort of problem. I don't recall exactly. I think they had to replace some of the brick facade. It was crumbling and had lost its strength, so they had to kind of brace everything up. And
Yeah, some of it collapsed, and the bricks just bulged out and started failing.
Right. I remember the bulging and everything. Yeah. So, all right. Well, that's what I got. Be safe out there. I'll turn it back over to Matt.
Thanks, Ken. Good job. Well done at Central Ave in Burlington. It's a cool project.
Yeah, it seems like it seems like I forgot to mention there was a piece of text in there. I thought I talked about Central Ave itself, how challenging it was, that it is congested. If you've never been on that street, it's terribly congested. And on trash day, it's like the whole street is like stopped in limbo when the trash truck goes down and turns around and picks up trash. It's that tight.
Yeah, it's like a one-way, pretty much.
Yeah,
with
it is.
Cars parking on the street because there's
Yeah,
no,
so
everybody's driveway is super small.
challenging job.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you watch in a
right.
group setting, please let me know so I can capture attendance. Thanks for everyone who tuned in this morning. I'll record it. We're recording right now. We'll upload it on YouTube. It'll be available to watch for ones that missed it. And again, just please let me know if you watch it so we can capture attendance. Let's be safe today. Let's have a great day.
Sounds good.